Welcome to the Teachers on Fire podcast, where I profile agents of growth and transformation in education today. Each guest shares their highs, their lows, their passions, their goals, and the resources that are shaping their thinking and inspiring their practice. For show notes and links from each episode, visit teachersonfire.net. You can also follow the show at Teachers on Fire on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And of course, please subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm your host, Tim Cavey. Let's meet today's guest. Today, I'm speaking with KELLIE Bahri. KELLIE is a fifth grade teacher. She is committed to making a difference. She's a member of Nohea Kindreds, a supporter of the Sustainable Development Goals, an agent for agency, and a co-founder of the Crazy PLN. She's also the co-host of the Edu Exchange Podcast, along with David Hennell. Follow KELLIE on Twitter at KBahri5, that's KBAHRI5, on Instagram at KBahri6, on her blog at writersnotebook.blog, and on her podcast at eduexchangepodcast.com. KELLIE, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Are you ready to talk education?
I absolutely am. Thanks for having me.
Well, it is a thrill to finally speak with you, KELLIE. You've been another huge supporter of the Teachers on Fire podcast, and you've been one of those virtual friends in my PLN that I can't tell you how encouraging and inspiring you've been to my work. So what a thrill to speak with another fan of the pod. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about your current context in education? What does that look like for you on a daily basis?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thanks again for having me. I really do appreciate you inviting me on. Currently, I am a fifth grade teacher. I work in the Birmingham Public Schools here in Birmingham, Michigan. It's a small suburb in the southeast part of Michigan, small but mighty. I'm really, truly blessed to be able to work here. So, I've been 17 years in education, and I'm heading back to school myself this spring. I'm getting my PhD in leadership. So, lots going on.
That is phenomenal. I love that you're going after your PhD. I'm in my 19th year and just finished my master's. So, and let me tell you, that experience scared me straight. I feel like I can't go back to school for a few years now, but good for you to get after the PhD. And I'll look forward to cheering you along on that journey.
When I got my master, I felt the exact same way. It's taken a long time to think that I would want to do that again. It was a lot of work. So, yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that.
Well, KELLIE, it is story time, and I always enjoy starting out with a bit of a snapshot. You know how this goes as a listener of the podcast. Would you share with us about a low moment or an experience of adversity that you faced somewhere in your teaching or education career and describe how you overcame it?
Certainly. I would say maybe it was a few years ago, maybe a little more than that. I think it was when the evaluation systems changed, and maybe it didn't change everywhere, but here in the state of Michigan, it certainly did change. It became very high stake. Our evaluations, it was no longer seniority and where you fell and how many years you taught. It all of a sudden became on your evaluation. And I really, honestly, it changed everything that I ever wanted in education. And so the stress level of that alone just really made me isolated. I found myself, being a lonely job where I just didn't enjoy it anymore. I think I really fell out of love with teaching when that happened. What happened really truly was that I wanted to walk away. Actually, I sat down, I tried to figure it out. But with health insurance, it just kept me coming. So, back, I couldn't quit. So I ended up taking some time to really think about where I was in this myself. And I actually found that I was the problem. It wasn't anybody else around me. It wasn't the evaluation system. It actually had to do with me and how I was treating my profession and trying to hoard ideas and trying to maybe outshine other people so that I wouldn't lose my job. a job that I didn't really even want at the time. And so I think that's when I finally just stopped and I had to call myself out on it. And I opened up my doors. I started sharing. I started trying to, shine the light on other people when they were doing things. And it just kind of changed the culture. Well, it changed the culture within me, but it also changed the culture within my immediate, team. And so we started to work together. And when we started to work together, we found, honestly, the joy of love and teaching came back. Um, and I have never stopped. So I'm here about making other people feel good about what they're doing. And I would have to say, since then, I've been on fire for teaching. I love every aspect of it, and yeah, that was a pretty low part to think that I wouldn't be here anymore doing what I do.
I like that takeaway, Kelly. I really like that idea that although the circumstances were not ideal, and it sounds like there was a lot that you could blame and point to as the problem, you really took ownership and you looked inside in terms of what was within your control. And it's incredible to me that that was enough to sort of be the catalyst for a turnaround in your career. And today you're at a very, very different place as a result. So I think that's an awesome lesson, an awesome takeaway for others facing, sometimes challenging external circumstances. And yes, we do want to see changes around us sometimes, especially when it comes to, what you described as a really unfair or over competitive sort of evaluation system. But on the other hand, there's a lot that we can still control ourselves. And that's what we need to focus on. Well, as a fellow podcaster, Kelly, I really want to hear more about your current work on the Edu Exchange Podcast, which you are hosting with David Hennell. Could you tell us more about the mission and vision of the podcast? Who is it for, and what are your goals there?
Yeah, so Dave and I began the podcast. So we were in search of educators and leaders, other people that had stories that could resonate with the mass, and to kind of not shake things up, but to kind of make sure that we were finding stories that would push the thinking and the practices and within education. And um, maybe pulling out things like even just, the evaluation system or how to change things. And so we've been really blessed to have some really amazing people to talk to. Dave is the tech director, and at his he's in an all girls school, and he does amazing things. So for me, that's awesome because I'm not techie at all. So he does all of the tech. And being that a classroom teacher, I can kind of have that little insight of what it would be, what it's like to be an educator within our podcast. So it's a good balance. We're covering things and having a lot of fun. I'm actually probably more than Dave, still trying to learn the ins and outs of podcasting. So, it's nice to have Dave there and as a partner that he can edit most of my words and, things out when we're doing it. He's got a lot of work on the other side of the podcast just because me talking. But Dave and I, took a few months off. We had a few things we had to, wrap up in our own personal lives, and so we're back in recording, and we should have a few coming out pretty soon.
All right. Well, make sure if you are listening right now and you're not subscribed to the Edu Exchange Podcast, make sure to surf on over, search for them. You'll find them in the same podcast player you're using right now, and make sure you tune in. David and Kelly are both such tremendous amplifiers, and they've done so much work in Edu Twitter to encourage and amplify others. And now I'm so excited that this podcast is getting off the ground as well. Well, Kelly, I just mentioned Edu Twitter, as I like to call it. You're so active there, and you do such an amazing job of elevating the work of others, including this podcast, which I mentioned earlier. You've been a tremendous supporter of Teachers on Fire. Two other hashtags that I see in my Twitter travels are CrazyPLN and Nohea Kindreds. So could you tell us briefly what is behind each of these tags and also explain why you're so passionate about them?
Yeah. Um, well, first of all, thanks for mentioning that I elevate others. It's in my one word for 2020. I really love celebrating other people. And so I actually have a bracelet that I had engraved with it so that I could keep it with me. I really love to see people shine. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. All right, well, let's start with what do we start with? Crazy PLN. Yeah, this is a group that we kind of came together. There was just a small group of us that we just, had a small chat area that we were just kind of amplify each other and support each other. And it has just grown into just an amazing, wonderful group of educators and authors and leaders. And the one thing that they all have in common is that they support other educators and they are believers in student empowerment. And this group really has just transformed my teaching, my life, and the fact that you just say, like, even with my own kids, I've got four, and I always say to surround yourself with people that you want to emulate, that
Mhm.
you will become the people that you are most around. And so I'm really blessed to say that I am surrounded by people that I would emulate every single day. Um, they encourage each other, we gently push each other just to become our best. And at the center of everything that we have, it's for children, and that we want the absolute best for the whole child, for learning. We're just striving constantly to find what's the best thing. And so with the Crazy PLN chats on Saturday morning, it's been just an amazing experience to see people from all of Edu Twitter joining in or wanting to even host their own chat within the Crazy PLN. And so it's really been wonderful to see people kind of band together, knowing that at the center of everything that we do, once again, is all for kids. And it's just a really amazing group.
I'm curious, Kelly, who gave it the name Crazy, or where did that come from? Is that just an affectionate nod to the wild up and down life of the professional learning network, or where did that come from?
Yeah, it's funny that you should say that because we've had a few people ask about it, and you know, um, Dave is really great. Actually, there's quite a few amazing people that are able to explain this probably much better than I can, but I'll give it a shot here. Um, Crazy literally came from the word excited. Just when we would just say, we're just crazy about education, we're crazy about children, we just want, so excited, and that we have this fire inside us to do something um, that's bigger than ourselves. And we've found it within this group. And so I just think that everybody in that I associate here with within the Crazy PLN, we are literally crazy excited for everything that we're doing, and that we want to see change too. So if we see things that really need to be changed, we're the first probably to, amplify that, make sure that we're pulling it out for, us to talk about. We're not hiding to talk about things that need to be changed either. So, um, it's a brave group. And that crazy part really did come from just being super, uber excited about it.
And then in terms of Nohea Kindreds, could you speak a little more to what that group is all about?
Yes, for sure. This is Aubrey Patterson and Lori Harvey. Wow. If you ever want to meet two people that are the kindest, most loveliest people in the entire world, I would have to say it's going to be Aubrey and Lori. They're just so incredibly sweet. And I'm honored to be associated with them and the Nohea Kindreds. Nohea, there's like a few parts to Nohea Kindreds. The first part really is Nohea. It teaches like a 3-step approach to simplify, clarify, and amplify. And that's Aubrey and Lori's work within working with schools and districts all across, all across the world. And so they're really focusing on like simplifying, decluttering, simplifying the language, and focusing on staff. Their clarifying would be like to create communication structures to ensure clarity and to remove obstacles. And then to amplify would be to build a vibrant staff culture that quickly turns into a positive result. So their work is really sought after. They're both brilliant people. I don't know if you've had a chance, but they're actually really laid back and cool too. So they've got a balance of being really just amazing. Now, in the Nohea Kindreds, um, it's a group of, well, and I'm going to use what Aubrey would call this because I'm absolutely honored that he would, have invited me to be a part of this. But as Aubrey and Lori would put a definition to the Nohea Kindreds, it's a group of extraordinary people that Nohea found and connected as givers. It's a community growing with all kinds of edu leaders and teachers and consultants, ed techies, administrators, and more wonderful people that want to share and give back to everyone. And so it's a small group, small and mighty, but just a small group that they have kind of pulled together, that we work to amplify and trying to make sure that we spread love and joy and happiness, and trying to all centered around education. And so it's been a really great experience working with them.
Well, if you're listening and if any of what Kelly was just describing resonates with you, make sure to connect with these two great communities. Again, we've got the hashtag CrazyPLN, Professional Learning Network, and hashtag Nohea Kindreds. That's Nohea Kindreds. And I really, really like that three-step approach of simplify, clarify, and amplify. And those two that you mentioned, Aubrey and Lori, are two more that I really need to have on the program at some point. Well, Kelly, as you look across your professional learning network and your own professional practice, what else is setting you on fire about education today?
Oh my gosh, Tim, I can't even like pick one because I feel like I'm on fire about every angle that education has to offer. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's so hard. I could go on. I feel like this podcast is actually going to take a couple hours now because you just asked me that question. But let me just start with teaching the sustainable development goals. That's new to me this year. Um, as a matter of fact, I'm going to put myself out there on the ledge here a little bit, but I didn't even really know about the SDGs until this year. It was around August, and I had come across Jennifer Williams. She's also on Twitter. I came across Jennifer Williams, and she had a goals project that we could sign up for. And I just signed up for it. I didn't even know what it was. So it was just kind of like a leap of like, all right, let's do it. So I started the school year, basically with my new students walking in the door, me saying hi and, giving lots of hugs and trying to get to know them. And also really jumping into a goals project that was only supposed to be a month long. And it's turned into a year-long project because the second part that I'm really on fire about in education is really design thinking, and coming across, or just getting to learn Lindsay Portnoy's Design to Learn work really transformed my classroom. And so I've tied them two together where I'm taking the design thinking approach from Lindsay, and along with the SDG work from Jennifer Williams, or that the project, I should say, that she introduced to us. It's really just opened up the entire classroom of breaking down walls and making the world right inside our classroom. We have met people from all over the world. We've been Skyping with people, other students from Zambia, Africa. It just has really just kind of helped me see what a learner really truly needs. And up until this year, I really don't know that I fully understood that. And it's just opened up my eyes to being really on fire about it. But that kids need to have their choices, voice. They need autonomy. It doesn't have to be everybody doing the exact same thing, the same outcome, or even assessing them identically. And so this work literally has me so on fire. I could go on and on and on about it. It's I would definitely have to say, anybody listening, you definitely want to check out Lindsay's work, Designed to Learn. Um, that book, her book, just totally like made me a different teacher within a few months. Within a few months.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, that's an awesome review. And faithful listeners of the program have heard me talk about how I was able to visit the United Nations Center in New York City over the Christmas break, and how exciting it was to see the work that is happening there around these sustainable development goals. It's an exciting vision for the future. And the thing I really like about it is it casts education in a global vision, right? That we are all learners. We're not just learners in our state or country. We're learners of the planet,
Right.
and we're working together. And if you're a little bit lost, there are 17 17 sustainable development goals, and I'll give you a few samples. 1 is no poverty, 2, zero hunger, 3, good health, 4, quality education, 5, gender equality, and so on. And we've got 17 targets moving forward. And so yeah, it's not a Pollyannish view of the future, but it does establish. We say that we want to set clear learning intentions in our classrooms. Well, how about setting clear goals, development goals for the planet, for the future, and it gives governments and policymakers and educators targets to work towards, and I find that so exciting.
Yeah, it allowed my students to see that they make a difference, that even as a child, their choices and actions make a difference. And the heart of a child, they want nothing but like the best to happen.
Right.
And so allowing the kids to work with these goals has given them a sense of a sense of belonging to the world. Like you were just saying, it's not about just coming to school and having to learn standards. The standards are so easily tied into the work of SDGs, and that they they have been. You talk about me being on fire. You come in and watch my kids. Their energy, and they're on fire. They're spreading this around the school, making posters, trying to get into classrooms to talk to other teachers and other children. Um, they really want the best. And so I love watching the heart of children work. I think that they can make a difference far greater than some adults. And so, we always say, world changers are noisy. And that certainly happens within my classroom. It has gotten a lot noisier, but it's a good noise. It's like just a wonderful noise that happens because there's energy and love happening within this work. And they had a goal 8 was their goal that they had to work with. And they are helping. Goal 8 is the economic growth and decent work. And so making sure, like, the work that they had to look at, and seeing that the world is so unfair when it comes to how hard some people work versus other, and the pay that they get. And it just really opened up their eyes to wanting to make a difference. And so they've connected themselves with a school in Africa, they're supporting a women's bead making group that they've been Skyping with. And although we can't buy bracelets from them to sell here to give money back to them, it's too expensive. They've decided to make a sustainable bracelet that they're selling here to give the money to this particular women's group in Africa so that they can keep their business up and running. And so it's been really fascinating, and just to sit back and kind of be in the back of the room and letting them make choices and decisions. And yes, I'm there to kind of help keep them on the rails a little bit, because some of their ideas are just way bigger than I could manage. But watching them make these choices has just been incredible. I've learned more from them than I think that they're learning from me, but it's been a really great experience.
That is awesome, and I love your comment that change makers are noisy. Isn't that the case? Well, Kelly, let's move to your professional growth and maybe some of your goals for this year. You already mentioned the PhD. Is that sort of your number one professional goal on the horizon, or is there something else, maybe another goal or project that you're currently working on that you could share with us?
Yeah, professionally, I'm, setting up to focus on my PhD. So, that's a mindset that I need to get myself together, because I love too many things, like too many things. I want to be here and there and help and do. And I thrive in that kind of environment. And so working on my PhD is a mindset that I'm going to have to get ready for, because I'm going to really have to put most and all of my energy right into that. It'll keep me centered for sure. So professionally, yes, my PhD. Some things that I'm working on right now. I'm working with Evo Hanan, and we're for Agents for Agency. And so professionally speaking, I'm working on hosting a conference at the end of March in New York City, New Jersey area. That'll be the first of the conferences for Agents for Agency. And so I've been kind of like the coordinator, and then the helping get this up and running, and organizing it. It has been a blast. I cannot wait to the end of March to meet someone amazing, Edu Twitter friends that I have grown to know over the last year. So it'll be a great time for us to get together and work on helping create resources for teachers to become agents for student agency. What does a teacher need to do? What does that look like? How can we help children have that autonomy and build that relationship so that they can fly in a classroom? And so that will be the work coming up at the end of March. It's very exciting.
And that's another hashtag, Agents for Agency, that I was hoping would come up in this conversation. And of course, love the idea that we want to continue to move students from passive spectators, from a situation where education is something being done to them, right, to a situation where they are taking active agency and ownership of their own learning journey. And once that switch flips, a lot of good things can happen. So I wish I could be there, Kelly. Wish I could attend the
I wish you
conference.
could.
Yeah, there's a lot of, not only meeting you, but Evo and a number of others, as you mentioned. So good luck with that first conference, the Agents for
Thank
Agency
you.
conference. Yeah. And did you mention, before we move on from that, did you mention a URL, or for anyone in the area interested in attending, where should they go online?
Actually, you can just all the information is at evohanan.com. So EVOHANNAN.com. And he's actually got conferences around the United States right now. So it'll be New York, New Jersey, and then he'll be moving into the Houston area, and then San Francisco this coming like April, so March and April. And then the following year, he's already got like 3 or 4 places lined up. So there'll be plenty for people to jump on board and come and check it out.
All right. Well, and Evo is another fellow that I really need to speak with here on Teachers on Fire. So again, if you're interested in that whole topic of student agency, make sure you connect with him at evohanan.com. Well, Kelly, let's talk about you as a human being for a moment, shall we? What is another area of learning for you? What is it that ignites your passions when you leave the classroom and brings you alive as a human being? Talk about why this area interests you and why you enjoy it.
Well, like I mentioned, I go about 100 miles per hour. I think most days. I just have so much going on at all the times, like lots and lots of plates. And the one thing that I love, 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 and making sure that I get there is fresh air. I love being outdoors, connecting with nature. Um, I think it's just a place that I need to go when I need to regroup and kind of find my center. If I'm in the woods with just trees, I think for some reason it's just a place where I can just find calmness, and it kind of brings me back. It makes me help me focus on like the most important parts of my life, or finding areas that I've been neglecting and I need to, bring them back centered. So, um, I absolutely, well, I live in Michigan, so I'm incredibly blessed with having the we call it up north here in Michigan, but it's northern Michigan. I I spent a great deal of time there. I grew up there. I grew up in Traverse City, Michigan. So for me, getting back home is probably the most important thing for me. I love camping. I love being able to kayak during the day and have a campfire at night. Um, I laugh because as much as I absolutely love the outdoors, my biggest fear, I am so scared of snakes. And so we laugh often that Abby French has got to be with me. If I were to ever see a snake, I need Abby right there next to me to help me out. But hopefully, the two of us will be able to connect and, go camping or something like that together. So I just actually came home from northern Michigan, way up in Lake Superior. We just went ice caving.
Oh, wow.
We just I just got home actually last night, but we went ice caving, and it was so cold, but it was so beautiful. We hiked probably like 3 miles, maybe 3 miles in the snow. I'm talking like I don't even know how to describe how beautiful it was, but just this woodsy snow covered place for 3 miles, and then came to the ice caves, and it was just I just breathtaking. And so yeah, my kids and I and my husband, we just really love being outdoors. So any chance we get, when most people are heading down to Florida for the beach, we're packing up and going north and trying to get more cold. So
That is so fun. Well, I mean, what you've described sounds very Canadian. That resonates with the area where I grew up, and I love the description. That sounds like a winter paradise for sure. And I like the shout out to our friend Abigail French. I featured her back in episode 111, and yeah, she is afraid of no snakes. So I'm with you. I would need Abby by my side if I ever encountered a big reptile in the woods. But other than that, yeah, everything you said definitely resonates.
yeah, I love the fact that Abby loves snakes. Like she's not definitely not afraid of snakes, but she just loves them. Like
Right.
she just wants to take care of all snakes, and I just find that just fascinating, beyond fascinating. I'm like, just don't yeah, I'm not there. I definitely want them safe and healthy and taken care of, but I just don't think I'd be that person to be able to do such things.
We have mad respect for you, Abby, if you are listening. But yeah, back to your point, Kelly, about getting into nature. I think that is so important. And, sometimes it really is about finding a nature spot that is off the grid, right? An area where our phone has no coverage. I think for serious Twitter people like you and me, that's an important part of the picture sometimes too.
Yeah, we lost service about halfway up, so it was good that we all had to put them away, and it's just a great time to just focus and reconnect and laugh and have those fine those funny moments that you just can't you don't want to overlook them. It's great.
That sounds magical. Well, Kelly, share about a personal habit or a productivity hack that contributes to your success. Do you have a routine or a tool that really helps you get it all done?
Well, it's not much of a I'm laughing because it's really important to me, but I don't know how well this would resonate with most people. But I am a sleeper. Like if once I hit the pillow, I could sleep for easily 13 hours. So getting up in the morning is so hard for me. I would sleep till noon if given the chance. So for me, I have to have every single thing ready to go the night before. I mean, everything. I need my clothes. Like, if I could, I'd sleep in my clothes because that would be a minute less than I would have to like use, and I could sleep that time. I literally make my breakfast the night before and just have it ready to go. I just need to grab it and out the door. So I roll out of bed and then I'm out the door. Only because I want that extra 10 minutes of sleep. That's how valuable it is to me. So, yeah, that would be my tip and my saving time tip. Do everything the night before.
That sounds good. That's a first on the program. I like it. And that makes a lot of sense. Well, Kelly, it is time for your quick picks, the education voices and resources that are shaping your practice and inspiring your thinking today. So, starting at Twitter, I know this will be a tough one for you because you are loyal to your tribe, but tell us about someone we should follow there and share why they've been inspiring you lately.
Okay. Well, like you said, I could be here all day because there's so many amazing people that I would highly recommend others to follow. And so therefore, I'm going to stick with some hashtags.
Sure.
Yeah, I've got a few hashtags I think some listeners should check out. Really, really great ones. So first I'm gonna have to give a shout out to the hashtag SDG Women. Um, it's just an amazing group of women who um, are working so hard around the SDGs. They work endlessly in changing the world, like through their actions and through their teachings, and they're extremely innovating. Um, I have gotten a lot of great tips, just as far as even like tech tips from this group. Really, really wonderful people. So I would definitely give them a shout out. Of course, we've already given a shout out to the Crazy PLN, that hashtag, but it's also, you can find them at Crazy PLN if you're interested at all in connecting with some real down to earth, fabulous, wonderful, uplifting people. This is where you would want to go. So I'm going to give two shouts out for those two hashtags for sure. Um, One person that I definitely want to give a shout out because she's changed my teaching, and how I approach learning with students is Lindsay Portnoy, and you can find her at L Portnoy on Twitter.
All right, Lindsay Portnoy. Yes. Kelly, point us to an ed tech tool that you currently love using in your classroom or somewhere else in your professional practice.
I'm gonna say Flipgrid. Flipgrid, my kids absolutely love it. They used it a few times even to just communicate with their parents, and so they'll do a Flipgrid of their work and where they're at or a project that they're working on, and then they'll send it. So we'll send it to their parents. I used it for conferences too. So when the parents came to parent-teacher conferences, it was really great for them to see their student talk, or their child talk about the things that they loved about the classroom and what they were learning. And it just set that a wonderful tone to start out. And it was just like, Flipgrid is just amazing. We also send a Flipgrid to the school that we're working with, and the trust school in Africa. And so they really enjoyed being able to see all of the students say hello. We just made another Flipgrid, and we sent it to the Kamkuma refugee camp, where we were just encouraging a group of boys who are going to be doing a bike ride pretty soon to raise money for the refugee camp. So we sent out just a quick Flipgrid of just, helping, encouraging them to do their best.
So cool. Those are great uses of the platform. Kelly, recommend one book, one that you've been reading lately, or perhaps one of your all-time faves that's been deeply influential.
Well, it's one book that I actually need the most in my life, and it's called The One Thing. The author is Gary Keller, and it's about basically simplifying and finding one thing at a time to work on, so that you can get, the highest amount of progress in that area. And with me having a lot of plates in the air, it's a great book for me to revisit, so that I can focus on the one thing and try to prioritize where I'm at, so that I can, accomplish my goals.
So good. And we know that you're now a podcast co-host. I'm assuming you continue to be a listener. And if that is correct, tell us about what you are listening to. What have you got in your deck, and what should we be tuning into?
Well, the one that I absolutely love is yours, of course.
Thank
Teachers
you.
on Fire podcast. It definitely is one I never miss. I'm not just saying that because I'm on your show today, but it is definitely one I do not miss. It's a great way to get to know other people in a more intimate way, and just and so much information comes out in this podcast that it's definitely my favorite. Another one that I'm listening to and really enjoying is the Staff Room podcast with Shay and Pav. They are so fun. They have such a great relationship. And just for me, I find that they're like two opposite people who have found each other and just make learning an absolute pleasure. And so their podcast is great information. I mean, they hit targets on topics that I would never want to touch, and they touch them, and just in a way that it's so pure, and it's just really great. And they're a lot of fun. I only have to, they're just silly, wonderful, happy people, and I love listening to them.
Kelly, I think that was such a fun review. First of all, thank you for the incredibly kind words about the work that I do. And as I said at the top, you've been such a huge encourager to me. So I am grateful. And then in terms of the Staff Room podcast, I want to echo everything that you just said. I think Che and Pav bring such a lighthearted but somehow serious at the same time approach to education. They're very thoughtful, they're fun, and it was a pleasure to meet them in person 1 week ago. That was awesome for me. So, Che and Pav, I know you're listening. Keep up the great work. And I should mention, too, that they have branched out into the live show, if you can believe it. So if you tune in, I believe that starts at 8 o'clock Eastern on Friday mornings. You can find them on voiceedradio.ca. I hope I have that right. And you can tune in using an app or the website. And they are even accepting calls. So I did not catch them this past Friday, but I look forward to tuning in myself. And I've already promised Che that I will call into the program. They will get a call from Mr. Teachers on Fire. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. But again, that's the Staff Room podcast. And then I think their live show is going to be called On the Drive. I hope I'm getting that right. Or it might just be The Drive with Che and Pav. I think that's the correct title. But at any rate, follow them on Twitter, follow the Staff Room podcast, and you'll get all of their information. So I love that. Shout out. Very last question, Kelly, is simply for fun. I like to end on a light note because, after all, as educators, we're all human beings. We all get to the end of our productivity and need to relax and be entertained at times, right? So just for fun, what are you watching on Netflix right now?
Well, I just binged watched The Stranger. So it's based on a book written by Harlan Coben. He's a thriller mystery writer. And so he's got these, he creates these series, and it's like season 1 or season 2, but they're all different books. And so the one that I just binge watched was called The Stranger. It was so fascinating. And it was recommended to me by my oldest daughter, actually. And so it was really, really good. So if you get a chance, watch A Stranger. Another one that he wrote also, and it was on Netflix. It was called The Five, and that was based on another book that he wrote. And so that was a really, really great one too. I try to catch all of his series.
I really appreciate those recommendations. I'm adding them both to my profile, or to my list, I guess you call it, and I look forward. It's not like we get a lot of Netflix time, right, Kelly? But when it does come, it's fun to have something good to be able to watch and tune into. So thank you for those suggestions. Kelly, for those interested in your message, and you are into so many, you're contributing in so many different ways to the education conversation today. What are the best ways for the listeners to follow you and connect?
Well, at Twitter, you can follow me at KBAHRI5. You can follow me on Instagram. It's more of a family. So that's where it's like K5 is my Twitter. That would be my 5th grade. The K6 is that it's my family. We have 6 of us in the family. So on Instagram, it's KBAHRI6. So you can follow me there. Anybody want to send me a Voxer? It's fine too. I'm at KBAHRI501. I also have, a blog, if anybody's interested in reading. It's just the writersnotebook.blog.
Sounds good, Kelly. Again, thank you so much for sharing your time with the podcast today. This has been fun. It's been delightful and inspiring. Take care, and let's talk again soon.
Thank you very much for having me, Tim.
Before we sign off today, I'd like to share some highlights from around the Teachers on Fire community this week. Our first stop is on Twitter, where Leslie Rowe at Leslie_Rowe3 tweeted, "So excited to connect. I am a curriculum specialist and we are having a March Madness Twitter competition. Podcast to follow was our content this week. Thank you for your hard work and the great connections with the classroom you are making." Well, thank you so much for those kind words, Leslie. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad to be following you now. Next, on Instagram, I wrote, quote, "Seeing my logo on other people's laptops is next level encouragement. Thanks for the support at the Staff Room Podcast." And at the Staff Room Podcast replied, "It's so much more than a sticker. Red heart, black heart." Well, thank you, Chan Pav. You guys rock. And if you, dear listener, have not tuned in to the Staff Room Podcast or The Drive with Chan Pav, make sure to do so as soon as you can. Over on LinkedIn, kind of a fun share this week. After I posted about my latest blog post, "No, I won't assign homework for your family vacation," I got a comment from my accountant brother, Phil Cavey, who wrote, "Well written and great points, Tim Cavey." Well, thank you for that, Phil. This is the first time I think I've ever mentioned a family member on the Teachers on Fire podcast. And you know what? I'll take it. I always appreciate the brother love on LinkedIn. And educators, you know how it is, right? With your non-education family members, it's hard to get them excited about the work that we're doing and the ideas that we're sharing. So I really appreciate the support and love from Brother Phil. That was very cool. Well, to all who have read, viewed, liked, retweeted, commented, or replied to my content on any of these platforms and in any of these spaces, thank you. You are the fuel to my fire, and I so appreciate your support. Make sure you drop by the Teachers on Fire magazine on Medium this week, where we featured a piece by Tammy Breitweiser, who wrote, "Reading is Controversial? A Look Back at What Changes and What Stays the Same." And I wrote a piece called "Stop Treating Grades as Wages," where I discuss 5 problems that follow when teachers use assessment as a tool to pay students for the work they do in school. The Teachers on Fire magazine is a Medium publication, and you'll find it on medium.com or on the Medium app. If you're already an education blogger, consider joining our growing writing team. You can continue to publish content on your own blog, and you keep full credit and ownership of your content on Medium. Message me at Teachers on Fire on any social media platform for more details. Well, I'll leave you with this quote from my reading, Teachers on Fire. It's from a book called Atomic Habits, An Easy and Proven Way to Build Good Habits and Break Bad Ones. And it's written by James Clear, at James Clear on Twitter. And here's the quote. He writes, "The same way that money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. They seem to make little difference on any given day, and yet the impact they deliver over the months and years can be enormous." I so like that message, and that really connects with another book that I'm reading right now called The Compound Effect. Maybe I'll read that quote one more time. He writes, "The same way that money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. They seem to make little difference on any given day, and yet the impact they deliver over the months and years can be enormous." Again, I'm your host, Tim Cavey, and I'm so grateful that you decided to spend some of your day listening to this podcast. I hope that in some way the content you heard from KELLIE Bahri ignited your thinking and inspired your practice. And I'll meet you next week right here on the Teachers on Fire podcast. Take care and have a great week.